Borderlands 4 has just launched, and with it a ton of people are joining the game across both PC and console. But with this new iteration in the series, we get a bit more complexity than we're used to in a Borderlands title, which is probably a good thing. In this video today, I want to help break down all of the game's core mechanics for beginners so that you can learn from all the mistakes I've made in my 30 some odd hours of playing. I've also been playing since Borderlands 1, so there's some lessons that veterans will know that the game doesn't quite tell you about. In my typical fashion of upfronting the knowledge of my videos, let me give you some quick info. So it's a bit hard to give you all the information up front since this is more of a tip style video, but you can find all the tips marked as chapters in the timeline and description. Simply look at those to see if any of them stand out to you and navigate to the ones that interest you the most. Outside of that, let me tell you that you can fully respec your character, and all it costs is the in-game currency. So try out all the action skills, spend points on whatever looks cool, then just respec when you feel like trying something new. It costs a good chunk of change, but you can make back an entire respec's worth in selling just one inventory full of items. So experiment, have fun, ignore what the internet tells you, don't worry about a meta, just play the game how you want. Another big thing I want to tell you is about the elemental damage and how it corresponds to the color of the health bars. The color of the health bars gives you a context clue about the element that they are weakest to. So for the yellow-green bars, which denote armor, you would use corrosive. The blue bars are shields, so you use shock damage. Lastly, red health is just flesh, and incendiary is most effective against that. There are two other damage types. Cryo, which has the primary effect of freezing targets and locking them down, but it also does additional damage to armor, just not as much as corrosive. And then there's radiation, whose primary effect is damage over time, but it does additional damage to shields, just not as much as shock. These two tips alone, I think, are the biggest takeaways from this video, and thus are the too long didn't watch of this entire thing. If that's all you wanted to know, please feel free to just go ahead and shut the video down. I want to be respectful of your time. Before you head out though, if the info in this video ends up helping or being helpful, please don't forget to like, comment, or subscribe, even though I'm the world's worst YouTuber. Also, if you haven't picked the game up yet, you can use my Fanatical link, which will get you a discount on the game, as well as an 8% commission for me, which goes towards my Mini Aussies Endless Toy Fund. Lastly, I am streaming Borderlands 4 Friday and Sunday, doing a giveaway of the game starting at 10 a.m. Pacific daytime. So head on over to my Twitch, linked in the description below. Let's get started on the ultimate survival guide for beginners in Borderlands 4. This is the first thing I want to show off because I think it's the thing that a lot of people don't know if they can actually do, and it's respecking your skills. You can see that's going to cost me 23,000 to do so. It's going to be dependent upon your level, and it will scale with that level, and it'll be higher the higher you are. All it does is just cost you gold though. If, as a word of warning, if I hold down E and go into this screen and then back out, it's going to cost me money. So for the sake of science, you can see I've got 236,000 currency. You can see it's not going to take that much out of this, right? So 236K, it's going to cost me 23K. So we hold this down. It says minus 23K in the corner. And from this screen, we simply go and pull any points out that we want. You can either respec the entire thing or a specific tree from these two buttons at the bottom. You would just simply switch over to that tree and then press, well, I've got no points invested there, right? But you can say respec tree for just that tree. So as that experiment goes, right, we went ahead and haven't done anything. We didn't actually respec, but we would just simply be able to respec this entire tree and then put them into whatever points we wanted. But we'll go ahead and press continue here, and I'll jump back to my inventory. And you can see that we lost that money. So just be mindful of that. I'm sure it's a bug and it'll probably get patched out. So don't jump into that screen unless you are ready to respec. And if you're not ready to respec, just like wait. But that is how you respec your character in the game. Now, a big part of Borderlands is the storage deck upgrade, or the SDU. You access this by simply going to your inventory, and you'll see this in the top over here. Now, in previous Borderlands, this was a pretty dire thing because you didn't start with a particularly large ammo reserve of particular guns. In the very beginning, you won't have much of a problem with your ammo. In an older build of the game I played, you would jump into this a little bit faster, but now as it stands, you're going to start to feel that ammo crunch around level 11 or 12. But until then, put all of your points into backpack. And you can see how many points you are going to get by the second number there. So you can see this current 50 plus 34 backpack slots. If I were to invest another 120 points, which is very easy to get, it's going to give me 8 more backpack slots. For example, here too, if I upgrade right now, that's going to give me 20 more additional shotgun ammo. Remember, this is the max storage capacity for the shotgun. Has nothing to do with the actual weapons you use and how much is in their magazine or in their reserve or anything like that. It's solely the total amount of max ammo you can carry for that gun. And now in Borderlands 4, we have guns that can actually jump and pull ammo from other ammo types, even though it's not matching. The other thing that you want to upgrade to is your lost loot. I'd say upgrade these things first. In fact, I'm going to do one right now. We'll even, hey, you know what? Let's get spicy and do 2. Oh my God, I'm crazy. We'll do another one. So that's going to give us 3 more slots in our lost loot. What is lost loot? Well, let's jump over to another tip. You will find this machine, and the same thing with the Respec machine, at a point in the game that is beyond it's like the second quest is all I'll say. I just don't want to ruin anything about the story. So you'll get to this very quickly. So the second quest will allow you to respec, and the second quest will allow you to then access this. So what is the lost loot machine? The lost loot machine in the game explains this, but just to kind of go over it, any items that you missed on the ground that you did not loot are thrown into here. And if you drop items, they are thrown into here. You unfortunately cannot filter what goes into the lost loot, so you want to really check this thing regularly. Trashing it completely gets rid of it. So you typically don't want to do that. So like take, for example, here, let's just look at this one. This is 502, just to show you, right? 502. So 213,000 currency. If I go over to this, 502, and we press trash, just to confirm it, you do not get that money. So what you'd want to do in the very beginning of the game, eventually you won't really need to do this. You're gonna want to take these things and then go mark them as junk and sell them. So just make sure you're taking advantage of lost loot and you're emptying this, because you might have walked by a blue or a purple or, heaven forbid, a legendary and not picked it up. Well, it's gonna go to your lost loot container. And anytime you drop items that you maybe didn't want, they will go back to your lost loot. The game assumes you didn't mean to drop it. So lost loot is important because you will lose items. And this is in an open world setting, right? In previous Borderlands, it's always been a linear progression through levels. Since we don't have that anymore, the lost loot container fills up extremely fast, especially if you're playing any kind of minion build that kills things away from where you're actually looking. So one big thing with Borderlands is you're going to have a ton of discoverables to find in the game. You'll find that these little locations right here have a little undiscovered icon, and then you'll walk into that, you'll discover the location, it'll be a point of interest, like here's Plungeford, and around you'll find vault symbols or a propaganda speaker or a bunch of little mini games, and like this right here, like a Evocarium or a survivalist cache. It's important that you do them, but the game doesn't necessarily throw them into your face unless you check your map. You can just stumble upon them, there's no big deal, but you'll be able to get a lot of things from this. Any of the resources for your SDU, any new items, any new customizations, a lot of different things will be unlocked by doing this. So make sure you're always checking your map when you jump into a new area, so that you make sure that you get any of the things from these locations to make sure that you maximize all of the cool stuff that you can get within Borderlands 4. Now, if you're new to the Borderlands series, there are these things called golden chests, and they will require you to enter in these codes that you'll find on Twitter, I don't know, on the back of like a cereal box, however the hell 2K wants to disseminate them. But they will give you golden keys. Now, golden keys are also required throughout the game as well, but shift codes are the most obvious way to get them. So I'm going to go ahead and press escape. You'll see the shift thing here, and then you come up to the reward section, and you'll have this portion to enter into the code. That is a code that will actually work. I've already redeemed it. I'm going to put this code in the pinned comment in the description so you can go ahead and use it. It should be just one of the launch ones. See, it says cannot be redeemed because it's already been redeemed. I've got 2 different codes I'll put down there for you guys. It shows you all the ones that you've gotten over all the times. But I'll put those 2 down there, and you basically redeem these codes, you'll get one of these keys, go ahead and insert it, and you'll get items. Now, there's a approach. Oh, look at this guy we got right there. There's an approach that people say to use these at the max level. Don't use them, like use them at level 30 or 50 or whatever one it is. But honestly, this isn't a game of abundance. You are constantly going to be having items thrown your way. So just use them, have fun with them. If you want to wait till the max level, go ahead and do it. But you're going to get these keys either through the game's purposes or by getting shift keys. And you have to also consider something too. Are you going to be playing the game long enough to hoard all those keys and get them at the max level? Might as well enjoy and get the gear you can while you're leveling up and enjoy the process versus waiting until the end to do it. So that is how the gold keys and shift keys as well as gold chests work. You are going to find a lot of items in this game. And I think at a glance, it can be easy to look at the DPS and go, cool, this item's better, I'm going to use this. Higher DPS though doesn't necessarily always mean the item will perform better. It really depends upon what that item's use case is. So for example here, we are comparing an SMG and an assault rifle. The assault rifle's DPS typically will natively be a higher value, but things that the submachine gun will have are a much higher faster rate, typically a larger magazine. It can be larger, it can be more accuracy, a bunch of things. But also something to consider as well is who the manufacturer is, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But manufacturers will also determine certain things. So you have to consider all of these little facets when looking at something. An easy way to do it is maybe just to look at the item's level. So this is a level 8 SMG. I am using a level 6 assault rifle. And another big thing too is the fact that this can now swap between corrosive and incendiary elements. That might be something that I'm focusing on in my build. So don't just simply look at the DPS, look at, does this thing play with the play style I want to play? Does it also add in damage to the playstyle I want to play? And does it necessarily have things that are not outright damage that make it better? So factor all those things when you're taking a look at all the guns and items you're going to use in this game, because it is a big portion of how the Borderlands process works. Here is a quick tip here for some inventory management. When you take a look at your items in the inventory or in the backpack screen, you can see everything. Anything with a check mark like this means that it is equipped. Anything with a little trash bin means that it is marked as junk. If you're playing on PC, you can right click and you can choose to favorite things, tag it into a specific group, or send it to junk or bank. You can conversely hover over those things, and you'll see at the bottom it says press X to toggle to junk, or hold down R to drop the item. Now, it is also worth noting here too that you can also mark all, select a filter to apply. This choice will not affect items that are currently marked. So you can say, hey, I don't want to see groups 1, 2, 3, and 4, or I don't want to see favorites, I don't want to see junk, I don't want to see bank, stuff like that. Now, one other item that did take me, it's a huge quality of life jump for anyone who's played Borderlands before. You up here, this is your default bank, 25 items, right? So let's go ahead and let's just click this one. I'm going to right click it and press bank. So now it is marked for the bank. And now at the bottom of the screen, it says send items to bank. I'm going to hold down V. That went from 4 items in the bank now to 5. So a huge quality of life improvement, and this will help you manage your inventory, that you don't have to deal with a bunch of things. Like I said, this is all crap. So just press X to move it to junk, and should go to junk. Oh, okay. There we go. Go to junk, and then you'll go over to a vendor and just press a single button, and sell all of it. So new with this version of the game, with Borderlands 4, is our skill tree. And skill trees are fun. They're cool. They're awesome. I'm playing Amon, or Amon Amarth, whoever you want to say who he is. And I think a lot of people are too. But you can freely swap between your action skill at any time by just switching over it and clicking it. And now that's your action skill. Of course, you have to invest into that tree. So this is the important thing that I really wanted to talk about with this. If you've played a World of Warcraft, you are familiar with the talent tree. If you've played Final Fantasy 14, you've played with the talent tree. Any modern RPG nowadays has some form of talent tree. But this talent tree has passives, as you know, with these little squares. And then it has augments. Augments are further going to enhance your action skill in some way, and they can freely be swapped between by simply just clicking and swapping between them. They don't cost you any actual points. And then lastly, you have your capstones. Capstones will directly morph and change your action skill. But what I want you to know though, and we're going to switch to a different tree so you can see this, is how these things are triggered. You might think you need to get to the bottom of this tree or to the bottom of this tree. Nay, it's just 5 points unlocks the very first augment. And then this augment right here just requires 15 points. That's it. So a lot of times these trees, the progression for them is like, okay, you need to do 5 here and then 5 here, and that unlocks this row. Nay, 5 here unlocks both of these. You don't have to put 5 into these first to get that. And then furthermore, the most important portion of this is your capstone. Your capstone just needs 10 points in that parent branch. So you don't need to get all the way to the bottom of this to use the capstone. You need to get basically to this level. You need to press 10 points into this branch will then give you this. And going 15 points into the overall tree gets you each one of these augments to slot into. So you don't need to jump into those branches and pull those augments out. So that's something that's kind of convoluted. The game doesn't really tell you. And my brain, the way I naturally look at talent trees, I thought I had to push this all the way down to the bottom to get to that capstone. You don't. You just need the 10 points. And furthermore, too, I thought I couldn't access this augment. Nay, I had 15 points in the total tree up here. I could access all of these augments. So that's something to know with the skill tree. Shields are a pretty important portion of this game, and there are 2 different primary types of shield, and I just want to quickly go over them. I'm just going to hover over my guy right here and press Y to inspect it. We have just your normal energy shield. You can see that it has a 432 capacity. It will regenerate with 31 shields per second after a 3.3 second delay. That is exactly how energy shields work. Very straightforward. I think we all get that one. Pretty obvious. But the other version here is not as obvious. So this is an armor shield, and armor shields will have armor segments. And those armor segments are basically, think of them as additional, just straight up armor. Like it's like additional health, more or less. But that armor then has damage reduction attached to it. So think of this as having 369 additional health that then has 2 armor segments that you have to eat through. And that has a 26% armor damage reduction on it. But furthermore, usually armor shields are are associated with a typical or a specific type of element, and it is usually corrosive. So you can see here that the corrosive damage, it will give you a 15% resist against this. So it's going to help you to resist corrosive damage so that it's a little bit easier to deal with. And this is nice because it just allows you a different style of resisting things that is just different than your shield. And if you want to focus more on armor, which you can through your skill tree, you can do that. Or if you're focusing more on shields, you can do that. But this is just a different way to get resists or different damage mitigation online. Challenges are something that are not necessarily new to Borderlands 4, but they're things that you should maybe take a look at. You'll notice that you'll just kind of rack these up as you're playing the game. It's not too hard to knock them out. But some of them, if you kind of look at this little pop out here, it's going to give me money. It's going to give me Ethereum. Is a cryptocurrency, experience, and then it's going to also give me a cosmetic unlock. This is going to give me a cosmetic unlock. I don't think either one of these do. Also a cosmetic unlock, which I've already gotten. So make sure you're kind of taking a look at these as they kind of pop up when you see you're getting close to one, or maybe you're just kind of bored. You're like, I don't know what to really do today. Knock out a couple of these because getting these done is cool. Getting your customizations done is a big part of the Borderlands experience, and knocking out a lot of cool ways that your character can look, or maybe you're playing with a specific weapon and you want to really focus on, hey, well, you know what? I've really gotten like none of the pistol ones done. Let me take a look at some of the pistol ones. Oh, okay, well, I don't really get any cosmetics for these. Let me just push into something else. You know, like just take a look at these, just a quick little glance. I think it would be really nice just to, not really nice, what I'm saying is it is nice to get all of your cosmetics unlocked by just kind of doing what the game already presents itself to you. And this kind of gives you a little bit of direction. We talked about this in the intro, but what I want to talk about is elements and their affinity and how they do more damage to certain things. So you've probably seen the different health bars, right? You've got blue, you've got that yellowish green of corrosive, just I guess call it green, and then the red for incendiary. Cryo, like I've said before, does not do any damage towards specific, let's go ahead and do this, towards specific pieces of anything. It's stronger during against armor, but you can see that it's weak against shields and does normal damage towards flesh. So it does at least have some additional damage towards armor, but it's not what the most effective thing against armor. Let's go over here though and look at this. So what we see here with corrosive is this is very strong against armor, right? So you want to try to have multiple weapons on your weapon wheel that have different element types so that you can deal with the different enemies you're going to be facing. You're going to be facing enemies that have blue shields and then they have that yellow green armor here, or they've got red blue shields and red flesh, which sounds like a weird sentence to say out loud. So if they had armor, well, I want my corrosive damage to eat that armor. I want this incendiary to then eat flesh, because eating flesh is a real potent combination of words there, but you can see that it does very strong damage against those things. So that is something that you really want to make sure that you're taking advantage. I don't know if I have, where is it? You know, I said like, oh, make sure you have all these different elements. And what I've been struggling with is finding reliable shock damage. There you go, which does damage versus shields. Now, the only other element I haven't talked about is because it's the only element that is accessible primarily by Harlow or your weapons, and it is radiation damage. So it doesn't do much damage to flesh. It does weak damage to armor. It is the only other thing other than shock that does damage to shields. So it's worth noting that's how radiation works. That's how your shock works, incendiary, corrosive, and cryo. Just know that those things are big, important portions of this, because you're always going to want to make sure you have something that does damage to flesh, something that does damage to armor, and something that does damage to shields. Now, one of the last things I want to tell you about, or the last thing I want to tell you about, is manufacturers. Now, if you are new to Borderlands, you probably don't know what this means. But if you are a veteran, you know exactly what this means. And these symbols right here, right here, right here, and right here denote the manufacturer. And those manufacturers will have certain traits that are innate with those weapons. So let's take a look over here at Jacobs, for example. Jacobs are usually like very like Wild West themed weapons. Shotguns and pistols and sniper rifles and assault rifles are very like kind of antiquated feel to them, like very 1800s, 19th century style of weaponry. And they're usually very high damage, but don't do elemental type. So they have a very high damage, usually maybe a quick reload, something like that, maybe a high crit damage, something of that sort. That's Jacobs. Torque, for example here, or Torg, sorry, for example, will shoot a secondary. It'll either shoot like an impact grenade, like it's an actual grenade shot, a gyro jet is what it's called, or a sticky grenade. That's an example of a Torg weapon. Or Malawan is typically associated with elements, and you can swap between the elements here in Borderlands 4, which is unique. So you can switch between corrosive or incendiary with these. Order, and I think it's Daedalus are the two new ones. Order, maybe Order isn't actually new, but Order will have an actual thing, this one, that allows you to charge up and fire multiple rounds. If I think I also have a TDR, but that's not an actual legit TDR. TDRs are typically you throw them and they will, when you reload, you throw the weapon and it homes to the closest thing and explodes on them, or you can shoot it to explode. There's also Vladov here, which will have usually an additional barrel that will do either like, okay, this enables a third barrel increasing fire rate, but sometimes it's a shotgun or it's a different thing altogether. Now, dataless, which I don't know if I actually have any. I unfortunately don't have any dataless, but dataless items are cool and unique because they'll have 2 different firing modes. So maybe it's an assault rifle and it will use assault rifle ammo, but you press a button and then it will pull from shotgun ammo. So there's a lot of different variations of all of these manufacturer type of weapons. And actually there's a whole system where you can just borrow pieces of individual manufacturers' things to make like a custom weapon. But that is a thing for a further video, a different video, where we talk about the nuance of that. But manufacturers are a big thing that you're going to find, like, okay, oh, there's also Ripper. I forgot about Ripper, is also a new one too. You're going to kind of find that you might like specific styles of weapons. Everyone that plays Borderlands does. They say, oh, I really like Jacob's weapons. Or, you know what, I only screw with Malawan. And they'll have different feels. Like Malawan is a very sci-fi style of weapon versus a Jacob's, which, like I said, like a very like 19th century style of weapon. Or all the Vladov stuff just looks like some variation of an AK-47 in some way, shape, or form. So find what works for you. Find that fits your play style and actually fits your build. But at that, it brings our video here to a close. Hopefully this gives you a better idea of how to approach Borderlands 4. There's a lot of nuance to this game, and have fun with it. Borderlands is so much more about not min-maxing things to the ground, but playing crazy, stupid builds that have dumb uses of ridiculous weapons that blow up crazy crap. And if you play with friends, it's even more fun because the game scales to the amount of people that are playing with it, both loot and difficulty and monster density wise. So it's a very zany, crazy game. Borderlands 4 is a lot more grounded, though, I would argue, than the last 2 Borderlands, between 3 and Tiny Tina's. So have fun, experiment, try things. The game is not so permanent and punishing that if you do anything, you're gonna set yourself back. You can respec, you can just choose new weapons. It's a game of abundance, like I said before, so you're always gonna be showered with more and more items. So if you sell one on accident or you never pick it up, don't worry about it. You're gonna fucking get another one, I promise. But if you have any tips as a veteran of Borderlands, let it be known in the comment section below. This is kind of a dense game. There's a lot of moving parts to jump into, and this game is now even more dense. So again, let it be known in the comment section below. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching here today. Have a good one and take care.